Welcome, everybody. My name is Sean Walsh. I'm the CEO of JobRiser Malaysia. Joining me today is Mr. Richard Morali, a well-known author, an employment engagement specialist, an associate director of the Australian New Zealand Institute, specifically with regard to upskilling. Richard, how are you today?
I'm very well, thanks, Sean. Thanks for inviting me for this talk.
Oh, you're very welcome. I invited you because of your experience and what you've had. So, Richard, I'm going to get straight to it. I'm not going to beat around the bush. Between Spain, US, Germany, Ireland, they're expecting unemployment rates to rise from 3-4% to between 12.5% and 25%. That in the US translates to 18 million people are going to lose their jobs. That's a minimum, not maximum. That's a minimum. That's going to transfer to Southeast Asia. That's going to affect countries like Thailand, Indonesia, even more so because of a multiplier effect. What I want to know is, I want to know about Malaysia. What is it that workers and employers can do here in Malaysia? Not next year, next month, not the plan. I'm talking about right now, tomorrow, today. What can they do? What actions can they take to improve their situation?
Okay, so I'm going to talk about job seekers and employers separately. For job seekers, because many people are going to be losing their jobs, there are three things a job seeker can do. Number one, look at his skill set and see where he can upskill himself. That is absolutely critical, because when you come back to the norm or to the new economy, people are looking at multitasking.
Right.
Number two, job seekers need to learn to be flexible enough to take on any jobs. Even if they have no experience, they need to take on the jobs and not be so choosy, because jobs are going to be very scarce. Number three, people need to look at how they're going to reach out to potential employers through the right kind of resumes to prepare themselves right now. This is a time where they can actually prepare and look at the resumes. These are three things a job seeker
So
can
you're
do.
saying that job seekers need to get out of their comfort zone?
Absolutely, because when they come back after this lockdown, many people may not even have a job, and job will suddenly shrink. So this is where you need to have the mental agility and flexibility to take on anything that comes.
Okay. And from an
For
employer perspective?
From the employer's perspective, some companies probably will close down because there's no way to support. But there are also help from the government. Government has provided some grants, instituted soft loans through many banks. The SMEs and business owners can actually reach out to these organizations to see whether they can get some kind of financing to kickstart the business again. But those who want to get into business, who have never been into business, but just a new startup, then they need to go to organizations like MDAC, Magic, all these incubator companies that help startup. In fact, I belong to ANZI, Australian New Zealand Institute. We have a program called the SEED program, Self-Empowerment and Entrepreneurial Development Program. That is another program to help startup to get into business, to understand the ins and outs of a business and how to get started. So these are the two things.
You've got direct experience. This isn't some pie in the sky. This is real, direct, hard experience on what people need to do in this scenario.
Absolutely, Sean, because I've been through this on a personal level as well as a global level. In 2008, global level financial crisis, I was hit. One business was completely closed down, and I started a new one in the training industry. And personally, I have gone through a personal downtime as well. I did reskilling and I wrote a book. My first book was written when I was really down and out. So when there is a downtime, there is an enormous learning process, and we shouldn't miss that opportunity.
Right.
This is what I'm saying.
Okay.
So Sean, just let me ask you something. Since you got all these facts and figures, looking at what is going on right now in our country, how long do you think the Malaysian economy is going to take to recover?
Wow.
Any ideas?
Well, first of all, there is no guarantee that it will recover. That's number one. But to be honest with you, Malaysia is an export-orientated economy, and it's a big problem for Malaysia because its customers are hard set to feed themselves. Malaysia's number one customer is its biggest trading partner is Singapore, But Singapore's biggest trading partner is Europe and the US. It's not China. Malaysia does significant business with China, but it's mostly into Singapore, then off into Europe and into America, or directly from Europe into America. But I'd ask people to look at their own scenario and ask themselves this one question. Who's going to buy a new car this year? Who's going to buy a new bike? Who's going to go on a holiday where you have a 15-day quarantine period before you're allowed in? Who's going to go on a business trip? Who's going to get on a plane? Who's going to buy new furniture? And now expand that throughout the rest of the world. And that's what's going to happen. So economies are going to shrink massively. But if Malaysia does buckle down and people start thinking outside of the square, Malaysia can, this is a golden opportunity for Malaysia, in my opinion.
Can I also ask you, from your previous experience going through, I mean, you're a successful businessman yourself. You have also been through the 2008 financial crisis like me. I closed shop and I started a new business. What would you be able to, if you had some advice for the Malaysian government as to how they can handle the current situation, what would you say?
To the Malaysian government, I'd say, so far you've done everything you can. To the Malaysian people, I'd say they can't do any more. They're already tapped out. But there is something they can do. You've got a dependency. The Malaysian economy is highly dependent on foreign labor. That has to stop. And it has to stop mighty quick. You've got upwards of 5 million between legal and illegal foreign workers in Malaysia. They are repatriating. If they repatriate 1,000 ringgit each back to their home country, that's equivalent to 60 billion ringgit a year. 60 billion ringgit a year. If that's into the central bank, that would allow our own banks here to loan out, you ready for this? 1.2 trillion ringgit. 1.2.
That'll be a lot of liquidity.
That's how much money the banks could bring into the economy. The Malaysian government right now can bring 250 into the economy by getting rid of foreign workers. But that's going to require a mindset change. You can no longer look down on menial labor. Manual labor is not less important. It's just different. So that's going to require mindset change. Now, how people, I don't know how people do mindset changes. I don't do much, I don't do well with mindset changes myself personally. I kind of just look at facts and figures and say, what action do I have to take? So if I was advising the Minister for Economics, your Department of Finance, I'd be saying, this is your opportunity. You're going to have unemployment. People are going to need jobs. So let's get rid of the foreign workers, get that money into the Malaysian people's pocket, get it circulating, and get the economy moving again. It would accelerate Malaysia's growth tremendously. And Malaysia could then face the biggest economies in Southeast Asia, Japan, Korea, head on.
So it works out, because I'm also saying that job seekers need to be flexible, so that when foreign workers are repatriated, there'll be more jobs available. And if local job seekers are flexible enough, they can actually start feeding their family and slowly building up themselves from that point. Right? I think that should be something.
Absolutely. And Richard, but there's a problem. There's a problem. There's going to have to be a mindset change because job seekers don't want to put their resumes online, just in case an employer is looking at it and offers them a job, because they're depending on that old system. I know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody. There isn't an employer right now in Malaysia that is not saying to themselves, how do I cut back on staff? How do I get this person to do this job and get rid of that person? That's what's happening right now as we speak. Employers are finding out where can they save money. And job seekers need to get their resumes online so that they're aware of opportunities. They need to think like their boss. Think of opportunities where they can get better return on their own investment, which is their skills. But Richard, to me, that seems very logical. But that to me needs a lot of people to just reboot their whole system. How do they do that? Because it's needed, it's desperately needed. But how do they do it?
Absolutely. You see, just to take a, let's look at the situation right now. Malaysia is in a lockdown, so to speak, movement control. And it's not just Malaysia, practically the whole world. Major countries are locked down, which means you are now forced to shut down. And if you shut down a factory, normally when you shut down a factory, you do maintenance work. Yes. You repair things which are not working, you do maintenance work. So right now, you have an opportunity because you're in a shutdown. You do your maintenance work. This is where you rethink and reinvent yourself. Reinventing yourself means looking at what are the things that you could do, looking at what are the areas you could upskill. It is not the time to go into panic learning. There are many websites are providing a lot of courses for free, and people are just rushing, doing this. I want to learn this. I want to learn this. Hey, this is not a fun time. This is serious business. Because if you're going to live for the next 40 years, which is very possible, if you're aged at 40, you can live up to 80, no problem. You need to spend the next 2 months recreating what you're going to do for the next 10 years. Because according to Yuval Harari, the famous historian, he says, every 10 years, we need to reinvent and start doing new things. That's the world we are living in now. So if you are not reinventing yourself, you're not sitting down and actually focusing on what you can do, you actually will be at a loss. It's actually not an option anymore. Everyone needs to really look at it. Government can give you money, they can only spend that much, and only that much money can help you. The rest is up to you. Yes. You are the problem, the solution has to come from you. That's why when you can't go out, go within, because inside you lies all the answer. What are you going to do to make it happen and survive the future?
But do you think the Malaysian people are really aware of how are those Malaysia, I mean, look, let's look upon it like this. The barrel of oil has collapsed. Okay, despite the fact that Saudi Arabia and Russia got together and they did a cozy deal, it still collapsed because nobody wants petrol. And even if you are giving away oil right now, the refineries don't have room to hold it. The super tankers are full. So there's no point in pumping any more oil out because nobody wants it. So do you believe that the Malaysian people are capable of doing this? I mean, how can you help them? What can you say right now to say, look, if you do this, this happens. If you don't do this, that's going to happen.
Well, you see, at the end of the day, changing our mindset is one of the most challenging things, because we need to look into ourselves and look at the change, because you cannot depend on anybody, not the government, not the banks, not the institution, nobody. At the end of the day, you're responsible for yourself. And if only when people understand this, change can happen. I'm not saying it's easy. Some people are really, really going to go through tough times because they're inflexible. But those who are flexible enough and look at survival first and then living a life, then these are the people who are going to be the winners. So you will find many people going down, and some people are going to emerge like the lotus in a muddy pond. That's basically it.
That's interesting. I think. Okay. Well, Richard, it's been a pleasure. I wish we could talk forever, but you've got your things to do and I've got my things to do. Yes. It's been a pleasure talking to you. I hope that what you've said will help people along the way. I do hope people will get their resumes out there, because it's stupid not to. And I do hope that people do that simple exercise that you said of simply sitting down, making a list, identifying what where your top skills are, and asking yourself, if I take full responsibility for my actions and enact on your advice, maybe look at improving my wood skills or my wiring skills, I can provide better, more securely for my future. I really do hope people take that on board, because
they just need to understand one thing: all is not lost.
All is not lost. All right, Richard, it's been a pleasure talking to you, man.
Thank you so much, Sean.
You keep well, okay?
Yeah, you too. Bye.
Take care, man.